And hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Chapters here on Armstrong Television. Chapters is the program that focuses on authors, editors, and publishers in West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. I'm Eliot Parker. It's great to have you with us. We are talking about a brand new book for children and adults, all centered around a cockatiel. And we're going to talk all about that with Carol Mazurek, who is our guest today here on Chapters. And Carol Mazurek is an author and an illustrator. She has a BFA from the State University of New York in Buffalo, New York, and a master's degree in pastoral ministry. She's received awards in photography, mixed media collage, and watercolor artwork. She presently resides in West Virginia, where she's surrounded by God's creation and is inspired to paint, write, draw, garden, and photograph. And Carol was inspired to write Patches Stay Put based off the real events surrounding her family's found and adopted cockatiel named Patches. And that is the book that we're going to be talking about today. It is her debut novel, Patches Stay Put, her debut book, Adventures of a Spunky Stray Cockatiel, written and illustrated by Carol Mazurek. So, Carol, welcome to Chapters. We're delighted to have you here today.
Thank you, Eliot. It's good to be here.
So, for our audience who may not be familiar with what a cockatiel is, describe that for them in terms of what is this kind of a bird and what makes it unique.
It's a bit of a tropical bird. It's larger than a parakeet. It's smaller than a cockatoo. And so it comes from the cockatoo family. And they can talk. The males talk more than, believe it or not, the females. And they come in various colors. Patches happen to come to us. He is gray and white and very patchy, which is why we call them Patches. Some will come with little red rosy cheeks and more gray and yellow. It's hard to distinguish female or male. Somebody told me by the back of their tail, but I'm not really sure about that.
Interesting. So how did your family meet Patches? Where did you find Patches, and how did he make the transition to becoming a member of your family?
Oh my gosh, it was really very different. Pets really come to find you. Animals have a way of finding who they want to live with, I think, My son and I were in the garden. I had just moved and had purchased this house, and we were putting together a new garden, and we're sitting on the deck, and we heard this strange sound coming from the garage roof next door, and I looked at it, and I said to Jim, it sounds like a cockatiel. And I looked, and sure enough, it was. I said, "You're the tallest one here. You put your finger out and see if he'll come aboard, And sure enough, he did. And I think he did this before. He did it so well. I think he did it before. And, the rest was history. And this was back in 2006.
2006,
yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
So are these birds native to this area, or you mentioned that it's kind of a tropical bird, is it something that that is bred in this area, or do they have to be brought here from someplace else? Do you know much about that in terms of kind of how they got here?
I read about how they got here after the fact, but they do have breeders in West Virginia that do breed cockatiels, and you can buy them at Petland. You can buy them at Petco, I think. Oh, Petco does have them. I did purchase one in Salt Rock just to keep Patches company, and it was a breeder. And I don't know. I think I would go with a breeder before I would buy one from a store, unless that bird really somehow was affectionate towards you. Mm-hmm. My daughter found one at Petland one time, and I almost bought it. And it would go under your neck, and it would pull your ear, and it was, it did all kinds of different things, and it was just so friendly. Not all of them are, each of them really do have their own personality. It's amazing. And they're funny, and they're mischievous.
Yeah, for something, and that's one of the things you write about in your book is that for a bird being so small, like all pets, they do have their own personalities.
Oh.
And Patches gets himself into several adventures when he's living with you. Tell us about some of those things that Patches did that got him in trouble.
He is a very spunky bird for sure. I remember one time, it was cold out. It was like in February, and three things you have to learn. You have to teach a bird is to step up, so he'll learn to get on your finger. He'll understand that. And stay put. Wait is another one. So those are the three areas that I thought was important to teach Patches. Although, Patches knew step up, somebody taught him along the way. I didn't know where he came from. And so it was interesting trying to learn about him and what his patterns were, and when he liked to eat, when he didn't want to eat, what he did like to eat. He would, and it's important, and I run that through the book. It's an educational book too about cockatiels. You have to be very careful about electrical cords and dark places. I have a desk in the family room, and Patches would automatically go under that, and sometimes you have to look for them. You have to be careful where you're walking so you don't step on them. I did put him in a cage occasionally, but he wasn't the confining type. So I got a cage where he could sit on top of the cage. It had a perch on it, and but he would tear up paper. He loved chewing on paper. You always knew where Patches was because there's an envelope that's frayed, or there's your important piece of paper you needed to take somewhere. It's frayed. So you had to be careful about those things. And going back to, it was in February, my father had put his coat on, and he didn't know Patches was on his shoulder, on his coat. And so he decided to go out with my father, and my father saw him, and it scared my father, and it scared Patches, and he ended up flying away. I never dreamed we'd get him back, and but that's in the story, so you have to read how we got him back. He flew about 8 miles away.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite a hike. And then there's a whole other story as who he stayed with, because he wasn't leaving. He wasn't going to leave this family. He was a smart bird. He knew it was getting cold out. He needed a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Carol, one thing I really liked, is we see Patch's personality come through based on those stories that you were talking about, and there's more in the book too that everyone can read. But this really is a book that, as you mentioned, is educational, but is also written for children and adults.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that something you set out to do?
Yes.
You wanted it to be for both?
I did. And in fact, I was told I would never pull it off, so to speak. It was, I've never written a book before, so it was really very, very challenging, because there was the family interaction, and then there was Patch's interpretation of what was going on. And there are two narrators in the book. There's me and there's Patch's, and Patch's has a very, very distinct voice, because he's very feisty, and he's very, he's not real careful with his words sometimes.
Tells it like it is, so to speak.
Tells it like it is, and so that was really very challenging for me, and also to. I found out when I was writing, I write in the past tense. This had to be in the present tense. I cannot tell you what that was the most challenging for me, is keeping it in the present tense. And but I had a lot of help and a lot of advice, so it came together. I have to tell you, I dropped 6 chapters, and I changed the ending 3 times. I thought, well, I'll save, because I introduced Barney. Now, Barney was a bird I bought to keep Patches company while I was working, and found out Barney was a Bernadette. She laid an egg on the counter one day, and I knew it wasn't Patches. I had Patches too long to know it wasn't a female. But so I didn't inject that in the book. Otherwise, it'd be a lot thicker than that. And maybe my next one.
Absolutely, absolutely. How long, Carol, did it take you to put this together? From the time you got the idea that you wanted to write this until you felt like you had at least a complete rough first draft? How long did it take?
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you, it was in September of 14 that I thought, children really need to know about Patches. I don't know how many people have a cockatiel for a pet. I never dreamed of having one, or thought I wouldn't probably go out and buy one. But I thought, it was interesting. It was in September. In October, I went to a book fair in Ohio, and Patrick Grace was there, and he was presenting his life writing class. And I thought, this is no coincidence.
Right place at the right time.
So in January, I started the class, and I presented to him, what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And it was interesting because he's the one who offered advice, because when I went to have Patch's voice come through, he goes, Carol, it sounds like Carol. So I had to find a voice for Patches. And so that in itself was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because it really had to be very distinctive from my own voice. And so so that took me into January of 15, and I did all the illustrations too. So until it came out, my first, April 9th of this year.
April 9th of 2016, very good.
Of 2016.
Very
So
good.
almost 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Almost 2 years, yeah.
And something else that's really unique about this book too is the illustrations that are there. And these are illustrations that you did
Yes.
On the cockatiel. Tell us a little bit about that. Did they come after you had the draft written, the illustrations, or did you have some of the illustrations done before the draft? And how did all the pictures get worked into the book?
I did the book first because, and I think the most difficult part in the illustrations is getting Patches to look like Patches throughout the whole book. And I do have a picture of the live Patches with my stray dog. I didn't want somebody else to illustrate it because they didn't know Patches. Mm-hmm. And I knew Patches, so it could have been done digitally, mm-hmm. But in fact, the person that was typesetting it was a graphic designer. And I'm glad I didn't look at her website until after I finished, because I probably would have had her do them,
Yeah.
But they were all hand-drawn, and they're black and white, except for the cover. And but I'm happy with them. I'm sure the boys and girls will enjoy that too.
Yeah, I think that gives an extra dimension to it too, to be able to see some of the things and see Patches and see him in different poses and positions as you're reading. And I know you mentioned before we began taping and talking before the interview that you've read this to some elementary school students and shared this with them. What's their response been? What's the feedback been like from them?
Oh my gosh, they just loved it. There's and when I interacted with them. There's a segment in there about bullying. My daughter brought her dog over, who was a stray King Charles Cavalier. Mm-hmm. And, of course, it's a bird dog, and not the kind of bird dog you want in front of a bird. And the minute, Patches caught eye of him, and the dog caught eye of Patches, they start, I mean, really, but this is true, this is all true. They started running through the house. I mean, and this is before I had Patches' wings clipped. And he could fly high enough so the dog couldn't catch him. He could fly low enough so it would look like he's going to catch him, but he was able to get enough height to keep teasing him. We didn't know, I thought, oh my gosh, if he gets a hold of this bird, but so in the book, we didn't know, I told my daughter, I says, your dog is bullying my bird. And, and Jessica goes, no, your bird is bullying my dog. And so, really, and we were able to talk about bullying. And, Patches was saying, well, I'm just doing it for fun. Well, when does bullying do it, when does it become fun?
Right, absolutely.
And the dog was just as much his fault, and so they really had to separate both of them. And so it in part of the book I says, the mom is going to put it on YouTube and take a public poll to see who the bully is.
Very good. That's excellent. And I can imagine kids really relating to that. And,
oh,
and
yeah,
tying
really.
Into that. So I wanted to ask you also about, in addition to we see the pictures and the writing, and we see his voice kind of standing out. I wanted to ask you a little bit about when we notice the font changing. We see the font, for example, in chapter 13. We get the block lettering, and then we see sort of the italic kind of font. And is that an indication that we changed into Patches'
Yes,
point of view?
Absolutely. It's a bold font. And I'm pretty sure it is italics. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think it is.
It is italics. Mm-hmm. That's when you know that it's Patches, and you can tell just by the way it's sounding that it's Patches' voice.
So, Carol, I think that you mentioned this a little bit earlier when we were talking about going to that conference, that writers' conference in Ohio, and meeting Patrick Grace. How did you go about finding a publisher for your book? Because you mentioned this was the first book you'd ever written, and you knew it was kind of a unique story. How did you go about finding Mid-Atlantic Highlands Publishing to take on your book?
Patrick Grace owns Publisher's Place, so it was very easy. Although I took 3 courses from Patrick before, it even began to develop, into what it is now. I mean, he helped me tremendously with the editing, as well as the typesetter. She was very knowledgeable also. And the feedback from the group, and I think everybody who is putting together a book should join a group. Mm-hmm. I joined Chasmeyer Kat's children's writing group, and got a tremendous amount of things from them, information, on publishing, on marketing, as well as you do, in the life writing class. But as far as a children's book, it's a different format, and as opposed to an adult fiction. And so those type of things are very, very helpful to me. And I also belong to a praise painters group, so that helped me with the drawings, and having a fine arts degree helps.
Sure. Get to pull it all together. Absolutely. So are you thinking about a sequel to Patches Stay Put, or what are you thinking about working on next?
I would like to continue on and bring Barney into it. Mm-hmm. And of course, I have a stray dog, and I found another stray dog. I'm telling you, the animals find you.
Yes. And they have a network.
They do.
When one finds a home, it's like they send out a signal that she'll take another.
She's coming. Yes. She's coming. She lives there.
I think because we get a little sense of there being a possibility that a sequel could exist when we get to the end of the book. And I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read it, but it lends itself to an opportunity for a sequel. So I think that would be something really, really unique, and to work Barney into the story would be great.
And I think it's a very unique book because I have been looking on the internet, I've been looking on Amazon if there's a book out there about a bird, and all I ever get is cockatiel books about cockatiels. I mean, how to feed them, how to bathe them, and things like that, but how to train them. And somebody did train him. He had so many tricks up his wing that it was amazing. It was just amazing. You got to read the book, though.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of reading the book, we're going to give you an opportunity to share a passage of the book with our audience.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap up the interview here in just a little bit. But set the scene for us.
Okay.
What are you reading from, and what is the passage that you're going to share with the audience?
This is a segment that my son and my nephew, who's 9 years old, they're sitting down with 3 cockatiel books. Now, each of them are going to go through the cockatiel books, and Patches is in the cage because we want him to listen to what we're saying and letting us know if it's true or not.
Sure.
Give us a chirp, or something. Give us some kind of sign to let us know. Now, as I'm not going to read all of it, but I'll read parts of it. There will be a segment when we're reading it, and then there'll be a segment of Patches responding to that, or in his own thoughts. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. Okay. It says, I'm reading that their food and water trays should be cleaned every day, too. I'm beginning to see where the saying dirty bird comes from. You may be onto something, agrees Jim. Whoa, did I hear right? Squawk, squawk, back the trash truck up. I am not a dirty bird. Messy, not dirty. Bad label. Labels bite worse than my beak. You can't see them, but they hurt. It's like a sharp wind. You can't see it, but you sure can feel it. Gee, Uncle Jim, Jesse utters with a frown on his face. Patches got so loud and upset at what you said. Bending over to look at Patches, Jim says in a sympathetic voice, Sorry about that, bud. Thanks, Jesse, for spotting that. You got it, Jim. No hard feelings. I don't hold grudges. Grudges hurt more than the one I'm grudging at. I wonder if Jesse knows that. I look further in the book to see if I bought the right kind of cage. I tell them it reads, the best materials are safe metals and hard plastics, and aluminum may cause lead poisoning. We pass on this one. It's best to place it where the family hangs out most of the time because they like a lot of attention. No fooling, Jesse laughs. This makes 2 we have passed on. Patches pokes his head up, but does not tweet and goes back to his millet. Okay. What is the matter with humans? They're cage crazy. All I need is a perch, someplace to curl my toes around to take a break or nap. I don't like to be snubbed either. I had a bird friend one time that pulled out all its chest feathers because it was alone way too long. No chance that'll happen here. Besides, I like my chest feathers too much. I say to Jim, since Jim Patches is busy eating, let's look at what foods we should be giving him. Dr. Oz would agree with this. It says, like us, a balanced diet of grains and seeds and fruits and vegetables and protein are the main items to keep us healthy. So that applies to Patches as well. Who's this Dr. Oz? Some kind of food guru? Or is he a wizard? There is a Wizard of Oz. Or maybe he's Dr. Oz of the Chow Wizard, or the Wizard of Grub in Oz. Oh, heck, I just hope it's good grub to eat. Okay, let me catch this one. This is my favorite. This is my favorite drawing. I have some favorite drawings. This is one of my favorite. I get Jesse's attention when I say, look at this recipe for bird bread. And it's in the book, by the way. And it's been used by several people here at the bookstore. This can become a big deal. Imagine this. We can make baker hats. I'll even make one for Patches. Jesse, you can have Patches taste the bread and see if it passes his approval. Uncle Jim can videotape it. There comes a high-pitched tweet from Patches poking his head up from the bottom of the cage. Yay, cheers Jesse. That sounds like a bell ringer. Look at Patches jogging back and forth on his perch. I bet he's telling us it's a top-notch deal for him, too. Of course, I say with much confidence. Patches is all about being in the spotlight. Did I hear bird bread? Jesse's going to make the bread. I'm testing it, and Jim will film it. We can have a series on YouTube. Super. Our own show. We can call it the Bird Bakery Show, co-starring me. 1 week we can make bird bread, next week bird muffins, then bird cookies, granola bird bars, bird salad, and fruity bird cups. My creative juices are bubbling. We'll be a hit. We'll have 1 million followers. We'll be on Good Morning America. Have a float in Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Dream big or stay home. That's my motto.
That's great. That is fantastic, and I loved that passage in the book, and I knew the backstory about the bird bread, so I knew that that's been consumed here at Empire Books and News by different people. But I just love that passage that you read because we get the sense of what the humans are doing and what Patches would think about what's going on.
Right.
So
right.
it's a fantastic passage. It's a fantastic book, and Carolyn, in our final
it's my favorite. It's my favorite drawing.
Yes, absolutely. It's a great drawing, and all the drawings in there are excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
So, Carolyn, our final moments with you today. If someone wants to get in contact with you about the book Patches Stay Put, they want to reach out to you. How can they do that, and where can they get a copy of Patches Stay Put?
Oh, well, I have a little card here. I do have a website. It's called Patches Stay Put, all one word. .wix, wix.com/patchesbook. And you can order it from there, or you can order it from Empire Books, or you can order it from Amazon, or you can get it at the Red Caboose down at Heritage Station.
Very good.
So I'm excited about it.
You should
I am trying to contact all the pet stores that have birds throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
And send them a copy somehow. I haven't worked that out yet as far as marketing, but see if they'd be interested in the book.
That's great.
And I have had reviews. I would like to hear more from children than adults.
Sure, absolutely.
I have to tell you, it's amazing. The adults love it.
That's great. That's great. It's a fantastic book. It's called Patches Stay Put, Adventures of a Spunky Stray Cockatiel, written and illustrated by our guest today, Carol Mazurek. Carol, congratulations. It's an excellent book. And
thank you.
We look forward to the sequel with Barney, and once you get that done, we'll have you cut back on chapters to talk about it. So congratulations.
Super duper. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So much, Mr. Parker.
And we want to take a moment to say thanks to Natalie Sheets and the staff at Empire Books and News for providing our on-site support and assistance today. We encourage you to come down to Empire Books and News and pick up a copy of Carol Mazurek's book, Patches Stay Put, or pick up copies of books from other authors, editors, and publishers that you've seen featured here on the program, all available to you right here at Empire Books and News. If you've got a question, comment, or suggestion about this chapter's program or any chapter's program that you've seen on Armstrong Television, we'd love to hear from you. We have an email address that pops up right here at the bottom of the screen. You can send us an email at any time to that address. We do ask that you please let us know your name and where you're writing from. That helps us keep track of who's watching and what locations are responding. But we do read all your comments and feedback through that email address, so please keep the comments coming and the good feedback coming. We appreciate it so much. And if you've missed an episode of Chapters or you want to go back and see one again, maybe for the second or third time, there's also a Chapters page available to you through YouTube and the Armstrong One Wire page on YouTube. All you need to do is open up your search browser, type in the address here at the bottom of the screen. From there, click on the Chapters tab, and you can find all of our episodes from author, publisher, and editor interviews from 3+ years. We're up to nearly 100 interviews already there on that YouTube channel. So we encourage you to go back and take a look at that. We know many of you have. Many of you have left comments in the comments blanks on YouTube, and we appreciate that as well. If you're a Facebook user, we've made a Chapters Facebook page. All you need to do is go to Facebook, click on the search tab, type in Chapters, and from there you'll find all of our recent episodes, plus also see some of the comments and feedback that viewers have left about the program, and you'll also see some original content that maybe you won't see on the YouTube page, and that's available through Facebook just by typing in Chapters in the search bar. So we encourage you to reach out through us and to us through one of those means here on the program. We appreciate all those comments and feedback, so please keep it coming. And that's going to do it for us this time on Chapters, but please come again next time. And in the meantime, stay tuned to this station for news and views that impact you and your community.